In this video, we're going to be talking about how to get a church higher up in the Google search. Now, I actually did a lot of the things that I'm going to share in this video at my church, and it helped us catapult from page 4 or 5 straight to page 1 over just a couple of months. So we're going to show you how to do the same thing. Hey, what's up, y'all? Welcome back. In this video, we're going to be talking about some of the more technical things and some of the strategies that you can use to actually get your church higher up in the Google rankings. But make sure you stick around to the end because I'm going to tell you how you can get $10,000 a month in free Google money to promote your church. Let's dive in. All right, so number one, 91% of people never go past page 1 of Google. That's kind of a crazy statistic, but it basically means if you're not on page 1 of Google, you don't exist, right? You're completely invisible to 9 out of 10 people in your city who are actively looking for churches. So it's really important to start doing whatever we can in order to get your church from whatever page you're on right now closer to page 1 and actually move up in the Google rankings. There's a couple different ways of doing this. Okay, so there's an old joke in the web design industry. It says, where's the best place to hide a body? On page 2 of your Google results, right? Because absolutely nobody ever goes to page 2. So what we're gonna do is we're gonna talk about some of the strategies that we can do no matter what page you're on, no matter how buried you are in the rankings. Some of these strategies will allow you to move up pretty quickly to get closer to page 1. Now, why are we talking about Google and not Yahoo or Bing or some of these other ones? Well, Google owns 90% of the worldwide search market. The average person in the US does 3 to 4 Google searches every single day. So it's become that entrenched on how we live our lives and how we look things up. And that's true for people who are looking for a church as well. One of the first things they're gonna do is they're gonna go to Google. So let's take a look at a couple of ways that you can get closer to page 1. Now, Google is the #1 most visited website in the world. There are actually 2 different ways that you can move higher up in the Google rankings. The first one is called search engine optimization, or SEO for short. And there's 2 different types of SEO. One of them is global SEO, and this is if you are searching for something anywhere in the world, how high you rank for that keyword. The other one is local SEO. Now, as churches, this is the one that we want to be focused on. We don't really care if people somewhere else in the country or from another country find our church whenever they're Googling churches. We just want to make sure that when people in our city are looking for churches, we're popping up. So step number 1 is to actually figure out where you're at. And the best way that you can do this is to type in a couple of search terms. Now, when we talk about keywords, just kind of an important caveat, keyword is not just one word, right? It might be the word church, but it also might be Tulsa churches or best churches in Tulsa, right? That whole phrase, whatever that keyword is, that's a long tail keyword. So whatever those search terms are that people are actually searching for, you want to start typing those into Google and figure out where does your church rank on some of those. Okay, so start there and start by typing in a couple of different relevant search terms. And then you want to make a note of where you're at in those search terms. So if you type in best Tulsa churches or best churches in Tulsa, and you might be on page 5, and then you might be on page 4 of best Tulsa church. So it's important to figure out where you're at, and then you can start to track your SEO as you move up in the Google rankings. All right, so before I get to my last couple of points, if you are new here, would you like this video? And make sure to subscribe. We put out brand new videos, fresh content every single day, 5 days a week. And if you hit that little bell notification, you'll make sure that you never miss a video. All right, so one last thing about SEO. Once you figure out where you're at, search engine optimization is kind of a long play, and this can take a while as you're continuing to try to rank for different keywords. So be patient, understand that this is a long-term strategy, but one of the things that you can do in order to jumpstart your local SEO is you can actually go to a website called moz.com, M-O-Z, and go to moz.com/local. They actually have a free listing where you can get a score for where you're at right now on your free listing, and then they'll even give you a bunch of different listings that you can correct that will automatically overnight help you move up in the Google rankings. And if you're willing to spend a little bit of money, they have some packages starting at like $129 that can actually, they'll do this for you, and they will help you claim a bunch of local listings that will automatically help your local SEO and automatically bump you up in the search engine. So whenever I am coaching churches or doing some consulting, this is one of the first things that I do. I did it for my church. I've done it for multiple churches. I just go in there, I go to moz.com/local, I find out where we're at with our listing score, and then I usually purchase one of their packages in order to help bump us up right away. And you'll see you can jump up a couple of pages pretty quickly simply by using Moz Local. All right, so the first way is SEO. The second way is Google AdWords. Now, I'm a big fan of this one because you could literally end up on page 1 of Google today by using Google AdWords. And you've probably seen this before. Anytime you go in and you go search for something, right? So say you are looking for Costco and you type in Costco, you immediately at the top see a listing for Sam's Club. That's because Sam's Club has actually purchased Google AdWords and they've bought Google's on that keyword for Costco. Right? You'll see a lot of places will do this. So other grocery stores will actually purchase keywords for local grocery stores, and this will help put them on page 1 of Google right away. So literally you could go in and you could create a Google AdWords campaign for best churches in Tulsa, best Tulsa church, and whatever other relevant keywords that you can find in your city that people are searching for. And you can immediately end up on page 1 right at the top simply by spending a little bit of money and running Google AdWords. Here's the really cool part. Google AdWords has something called the Google Grant. Okay, if you haven't listened to anything else I've said in this video, pay attention to this part right here. The Google Grant is specifically for churches and nonprofits. Google has created a program where they will give you $10,000 a month in free Google AdWords, literally to use at your discretion however you want. Okay, this is not a trick. And you can Google it. You can see this is an actual thing. It's $10,000 a month in free Google AdWords. I got my church approved for this years ago, and I've helped several other churches get approved for this as well. And it's literally $10,000 a month, $120,000 a year in free Google AdWords. Now, here's the caveat. You do have to be a 501c3. You do have to be a registered nonprofit with Google, and you do have to be registered through TechSoup. So there's a couple of things you have to register for, but you only have to do it once. And then once you do, and once you get approved, now you have $10,000 a month every single month. Now, the money doesn't roll over. So if you don't use it, you lose it. So you want to make sure that you're spending all $10,000 every single month. But when I was on staff at my church, I was literally sending between 6,000 and 8,000 people per month to my website from Google using Google's money. So we were literally inviting people to church and telling people about the gospel using Google's money. And that's exactly what it's for. Okay, so I would actually recommend doing both of these strategies. So you want to invest in local SEO. And again, one of the best ways to do that is through Moz. And I would recommend at least buying one of their starter packages to kind of help you kickstart your local SEO. And then also get your church approved for the Google AdWords grant. And you can actually do paid Google AdWords, and you can start that today. And you can literally be on page 1 as an ad right away. But why not use Google's money to invite people to church and share the gospel with people who are actively searching for it? And once you get accepted, you're good to go. All right, so if you like this video and you found it helpful, I want to recommend you check out my other video, How Do You Grow a Church, Part 1 and Part 2. You can click on the links in the description below. We'll see you there.